The great hall of the Galactic Council Station stretched as far as the eye could see. Its walls were made of a strange blue crystal that seemed to glow from within. 12 different alien species sat in a perfect circle around the center of the room. Each group looked very different from the others. Some were tall and thin like moving shadows. Others looked like walking rocks covered in bright gems. A few seemed to be made of pure energy that shifted and moved in the air. Ambassador John Carter walked slowly to the center of the circle. His black suit looked simple compared to the colorful robes and strange body coverings of the aliens around him. Behind him walked Colonel Lisa Brooks, her military uniform crisp and clean. Dr. Peter Walsh followed last, carrying a small device that recorded everything they saw and heard. The 3 humans had been coming to these meetings for 3 months now. Every day was the same. They would sit in the center while the 12 alien races talked about them like they were not even there. The aliens spoke in their own languages, which the translation machines turned into words the humans could understand. But the tone was always the same. They thought humans were beneath them. Today felt different, though. The air in the room seemed thick with tension. The usual chatter between the different alien groups was missing. Instead, they all stared at the humans with what looked like satisfaction. John Carter had been in enough meetings to know when bad news was coming. Council. Speaker Thane Vexka stood up from his seat. He was one of the Zephyrians, a race that looked like tall, thin people made of silver mist. When he moved, parts of his body seemed to fade in and out like smoke. His voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Today marks the end of our patience with the human species, Vexka said. The words echoed around the crystal hall. For 3 months, we have tried to find a place for your kind in our great council. We have been more than fair. We have been generous beyond measure. John Carter kept his face blank, but inside he felt his heart start to beat faster. Lisa Brooks shifted slightly beside him, her hand moving just a little closer to her weapon. Peter Walsh stopped recording and looked up at the aliens with wide eyes. However, Vexka continued, your species has shown itself to be violent and unpredictable. You wage war against your own kind. You destroy your own planet. You cannot be trusted with the power that comes with council membership. The other aliens around the circle began to nod. The crystal beings called Vortani made a sound like wind chimes ringing. The hive-minded Kalari buzzed in agreement. Even the peaceful plant-like groans swayed in what looked like approval. Therefore, Vexka said, raising his misty arms above his head, the Council has decided on the terms under which humanity may join our ranks. John Carter felt his stomach drop. These were not going to be normal membership terms. He had been expecting this moment for weeks. The aliens had been too confident, too sure of themselves. They thought they held all the power in these talks. First, Vexka announced, all human military vessels must be surrendered to Council control. Your species has proven it cannot be trusted with weapons of war. Lisa Brooks made a small sound beside him. John Carter touched her arm lightly to keep her quiet. Second, the alien continued, all humans must undergo genetic modification to reduce their aggressive tendencies. This will be done by our best scientists to make your species more suitable for peaceful civilization. Peter Walsh looked like he was going to be sick. The idea of aliens changing human DNA was something no human government would ever accept. Third, Vexka said, his voice getting stronger, humanity will be granted permanent observer status only. You may watch our meetings and offer suggestions, but you will never have voting rights. You will never be equal members of this council. The hall fell silent. Even the constant humming of the station's machines seemed to stop. The 12 alien races all turned to look at the 3 humans in the center of the room. They were waiting for humanity to beg, to bargain, to show some sign of desperation. John Carter stood perfectly still for a long moment. He looked around the circle at each group of aliens. Some looked smug, others looked curious. A few seemed almost disappointed, as if they had hoped for a different outcome. Council Speaker Vexka, John Carter said finally, his voice calm and steady, I want to thank you for laying out these terms so clearly. This is exactly the kind of honesty that makes for good diplomacy. Several of the aliens shifted in their seats. This was not the response they had expected. However, Carter continued, these terms require careful consideration. I request a recess of 6 hours so that my team and I can discuss this with our government. Vexka's misty form seemed to pulse with satisfaction. Of course, Ambassador Carter. Take all the time you need. But remember, these terms are final. There will be no negotiation. Carter nodded politely. I understand completely. We will return in 6 hours with our answer. The three humans turned and walked out of the great hall. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Behind them, the 12 alien races began to chatter excitedly among themselves. They thought they had won. They thought humanity had no choice. But to accept their demands. As the doors closed behind them, John Carter allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had no idea what they had just done. They thought they were forcing humanity to submit. Instead, they had just given humans the perfect excuse to walk away from this farce of a negotiation. The real game was about to begin. The human quarters on the council station were small and plain compared to the grand chambers given to the other species. John Carter sat at a simple metal desk while Lisa Brooks paced back and forth across the room. Peter Walsh was hunched over, his recording device, his fingers moving quickly across the controls. 6 hours, Lisa said, stopping to look at Carter. They gave us 6 hours to decide if we want to become their slaves. Carter picked up a small communication device from his desk. It looked like an ordinary tablet, but Peter had modified it with human technology that the aliens could not detect or understand. They think 6 hours is enough time for us to panic and accept their terms, he said quietly. He pressed a few buttons on the device. The screen flickered to life, showing the face of Admiral Steve Rodriguez. The Admiral was aboard the human fleet that waited at the edge of the star system, hidden behind a large asteroid field. His weathered face looked tired, but his eyes were sharp and alert. Admiral Rodriguez, Carter said, keeping his voice low, we have received the Council's final terms. Let me guess, Rodriguez replied with a bitter smile. They want us to give up our ships, change our DNA, and become their pets. That covers it, Carter said. How are preparations going on your end? Rodriguez glanced at something off-screen, then looked back at Carter. All ships are ready for immediate departure. Captain Ryan Mitchell has the Independence prepped for jump. Captain Karen Hayes is standing by with the supply convoy. We can have everyone out of Council space within 12 hours. Peter Walsh looked up from his device. Admiral, I have finished copying all the data we collected. Every piece of technology, every cultural detail, every military weakness we observed. It is all recorded and ready for transmission. Good work, Doctor, Rodriguez said. Our scientists back home will be very interested in what you found. Lisa Brooks stopped pacing and joined the conversation. What about the other human settlements? The mining colonies, the research stations? Already evacuated, Rodriguez answered. We started moving people out 3 days ago. By the time the Council realizes what is happening, there will not be a single human left in their space, Carter nodded. This had been the plan all along. From the moment they first received the Council's invitation to join, human leaders had suspected it was a trap. The 3 months of negotiations had been useful, but not for the reasons the aliens thought. While the Council believed they were slowly wearing down human resistance, the humans had been learning everything they could about their potential enemies. There's one more thing, Rodriguez said, his expression becoming more serious. We have been monitoring Council communications. They think this is just a normal diplomatic negotiation. They have no idea that we have been preparing for this. Outcome since day one, Peter Walsh laughed quietly. They are so sure of themselves. They think every species in the galaxy wants to join their club. They cannot imagine that someone would just walk away. Carter stood up and walked to the small window that looked out at the Council Station's central hub. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors below. They went about their daily business, confident in their power and their place in the galaxy. None of them suspected that everything was about to change. "The beauty of it," Carter said, "is that we are not breaking any laws or agreements. We came here in good faith. We listened to their terms, now we are politely declining and leaving. They cannot complain about that." "Sir," Rodriguez said from the communication device, "we are receiving reports from our scouts. Human ships from the outer colonies are also beginning to move. Word is spreading fast. Everyone wants to be clear of council space before things get complicated." Lisa Brooks smiled for the first time in hours. "Let me guess. The council thinks those ships are just normal trade vessels." "Exactly," Rodriguez replied. "They have no idea that we have been building up our forces for months. While they were busy feeling superior, we were preparing for war." Carter turned back to the communication device. "Admiral, execute the withdrawal plan. I want every human asset out of council space within 24 hours. Make it look routine, nothing that would cause alarm." "Understood, sir." "What about your team?" "We will deliver our answer to the council in 6 hours as promised. After that, we will be joining you for the journey home." Rodriguez nodded. "Good luck, Ambassador." "Try not to make them too angry." Carter smiled. "Oh, I do not think they will be angry right away. I think they will be confused first. Anger comes later." The communication ended, and the room fell quiet. Peter Walsh went back to his recording device, making sure all the data was properly secured. Lisa Brooks resumed her pacing, but now she looked more relaxed. Carter returned to his desk and began writing notes for his final speech to the council. "You know," Peter said without looking up, "I actually feel sorry for them. They think they are so smart, so advanced. They have no idea what they are about to face." Lisa stopped pacing and looked at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Peter said, finally looking up with a grin, "they think they just made humanity back down. They think they won. They're going to spend the next few weeks celebrating their victory. By the time they realize what really happened, it will be too late." Carter finished writing his notes and leaned back in his chair. "The council has spent so long believing they are the masters of the galaxy that they forgot one important thing. Sometimes the new kid on the block is not looking for permission to play. Sometimes he is just being polite before he shows everyone how the game is really played." Outside their window, the council station continued its normal operations. Aliens moved through corridors, attended meetings, and conducted business. None of them knew that in a few hours everything would change. The humans were leaving, and they were taking their secrets with them. The real game was about to begin. 3 weeks had passed since the humans left the council station. The Great Crystal Hall looked the same as always, but something felt different. The 12 alien races sat in their usual circle, but there was tension in the air that had not been there before. Council Speaker Thane Vexka called the emergency meeting to order. His misty form flickered more than usual, showing his nervousness. "We are here to discuss the human situation," he announced to the assembled aliens. At first, the council members had celebrated the humans' departure. They told each other that they had successfully dealt with another primitive species. The humans had been shown their place in the galaxy and had wisely chosen to leave rather than accept the council's generous terms, but now reports were coming in from across council space that made the aliens very uncomfortable. Intelligence Director Zara Kethmol stepped forward. She was one of the Khalari, a species that looked like giant insects with 4 arms and wings that never stopped moving. Her compound eyes reflected the crystal walls as she spoke. "The human situation is more complex than we first believed," she said, her voice buzzing like a swarm of bees. "Our agents have been watching the areas where humans were present during the negotiations. What we found is disturbing." The other council members leaned forward in their seats. The plant-like groans rustled their leaves nervously. The energy beings called Flux dimmed their lights to show they were listening carefully. "The humans were not just attending our meetings," Zara continued. "They were studying us. Every day they recorded our technology, our culture, our military procedures. They learned our weaknesses and our strengths. They mapped our space routes and counted our ships." A low rumble came from the rock-like Vortani. Their crystal bodies began to glow brighter, which meant they were angry. "You mean they were spying on us?" asked their leader, a being whose voice sounded like grinding stone. "Worse than that," Zara said. "They were building relationships with species we had ignored. The Tau from the Outer Rim, the Nexari from the far systems, even the warlike Korhan tribes. The humans offered them technology and trade agreements. They were creating their own alliance while pretending to want to join ours." The hall erupted in angry voices. Aliens spoke in their own languages, the translation machines working overtime to turn their words into something everyone could understand. The word betrayal was heard in many different forms. General Kane Vostul of the Hegemony military stood up. He was a tall, thin being with gray skin and 4 arms. Each arm ended in claws that could cut through steel. His red eyes glowed as he spoke. "The military situation is even worse," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. "We have detected human ships in 17 different star systems. These are not exploration vessels or trade ships. These are military formations. Full battle groups with weapons we have never seen before." The hall fell silent. Even the constant humming of the station's machines seemed to stop. "Impossible," whispered the leader of the Flux. "They are a primitive species. They barely have faster-than-light travel. How could they have military formations in 17 systems?" General Vostul activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared in various locations, each representing a human military presence. "Our intelligence was wrong. The humans are not primitive at all. While we thought they were begging for our approval, they were expanding across the galaxy at an incredible rate." Dr. Fen Varka, the Council's chief scientist, floated forward. She was one of the few remaining members of the ancient ethereal race, beings made of pure thought and energy. Her voice echoed inside the minds of everyone present. "I have analyzed the technology the humans left behind," she said. "What I found challenges everything we thought we knew about their capabilities. Their computers are 50 years ahead of our best systems. Their weapons technology uses principles we have not even discovered yet. Their ships are faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything in our fleets." The leader of the Zephyrians, a being called Next Talvayor, spoke up. "But how is this possible? Our scouts reported that their home planet was divided, that they fought wars among themselves. How could a species like that develop such advanced technology?" Dr. Varka's energy form pulsed with what looked like concern. "That is exactly what makes them so dangerous. They developed this technology through constant warfare. While we have been at peace for thousands of years, they have been fighting and learning and improving. Every war taught them something new. Every battle made them stronger." Intelligence Director Zara buzzed her wings anxiously. "There is more. We have intercepted communications between human ships and their home government." They were not surprised. By our terms, they were expecting them. The entire negotiation was a performance. They came here to learn about us, not to join us. The crystal beings of the Vortani began to glow even brighter. Their leader's voice shook with anger. "They made fools of us. While we were planning to make them our servants, they were planning to become our rivals." General Vostul called up more information on his display. "The most disturbing part is this. According to our analysis, the humans could have destroyed our entire fleet at any time during the negotiations. They had ships hidden throughout the system. They had weapons pointed at this very station. They could have ended the council in a single day." The hall erupted in chaos again. Some aliens called for immediate military action. Others demanded that the humans be found and destroyed. A few suggested that maybe the council should try to negotiate again. Council Speaker Vexka raised his arms for silence. "The question now is what we do about this situation. The humans have rejected our authority. They have built their own alliance. They have superior technology and military power. For the first time in Council history, we face a species that does not want to join us and does not fear us." The silence that followed was heavy with fear and uncertainty. The Council had always been the most powerful force in the galaxy. Other species came to them seeking membership and protection. But now there was another power in the galaxy, one that had grown strong without their permission. Dr. Varka spoke into the silence. We must face an uncomfortable truth. The humans do not need us. They do not want our approval. They do not fear our threats. They have become something we never expected to encounter. An equal, the word equal hung in the air like a curse. The Council had never had equals, only subjects and servants. Now they faced the possibility that their age of dominance was coming to an end. 6 months had passed since the humans left the Council station. The Galactic Council had spent those months trying to understand what had happened and what it meant for their future. They were about to get their answer in the worst possible way. The Dakari Empire had been a problem for the Council for many years. They were a warrior species that looked like giant lizards with sharp teeth and claws. Their ships were painted black and red, and they attacked any world that looked weak or valuable. The Council had tried to negotiate with them many times, but the Dakari only understood strength. Now the Dakari were moving again. Their massive fleet had appeared at the edge of Council space, heading toward the peaceful mining worlds of the Outer Rim. Intelligence reports said they had over 200 warships, more than they had ever assembled before. Council Speaker Thane Vexka called another emergency meeting. The great crystal hall buzzed with worried voices as the 12 alien races discussed what to do. The usual Council response would be to send a diplomatic mission first, then slowly mobilize their scattered fleets. It was a process that took weeks or months. General Kane Vostul stood at the center of the hall, his forearms spread wide as he gestured at the holographic display. The Dakari will reach the mining worlds in 3 days, he said. Our nearest fleet is 5 days away. By the time we arrive, those worlds will be destroyed or captured. The plant-like groans rustled their leaves in distress. Can we negotiate with them? Asked their leader. Offer them something they want more than conquest? The Dakari do not negotiate, replied the crystalline Vortani leader. They take what they want and destroy what they cannot use. This is who they are. Intelligence Director Zara Kethmol buzzed her wings nervously. There is something else. Our scouts report that the Dakari have been asking questions about human technology. They may be planning to capture human settlements to steal their advanced weapons. The energy beings called Flux dimmed their lights in concern. But there are no human settlements in Council space anymore. They all left months ago. That is correct, Zara replied. But the Dakari do not know that. They think they can find humans in the Outer Rim worlds. When they discover those worlds are defended only by Council forces, they will attack without hesitation. The debate went on for hours. Some Council members wanted to evacuate the mining worlds. Others called for immediate military action. A few suggested trying to contact the humans and ask for help, but that idea was quickly rejected. The Council's pride would not allow them to admit they needed help from the species they had tried to subjugate. While the Council argued, the Dakari fleet continued its advance. But they were not alone in that region of space. Hidden among the asteroids and debris fields, human ships waited and watched. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the human warship Independence. The ship was twice the size of the largest Council vessel, and its hull was covered in armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The bridge was filled with the quiet hum of advanced technology. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Danny Clark from the communications station, "we are receiving the Dakari fleet transmissions. They are demanding the surrender of all human assets." "In this sector," Captain Mitchell smiled grimly. "Do they know we are here?" "No, sir," replied Lieutenant Susan Ford from the sensor station. "Our stealth systems are working perfectly. They cannot detect us at all." "Good," Mitchell said. "Let them get closer. I want to see what they are really capable of before we introduce ourselves." The Dakari fleet moved through space like a swarm of angry insects. Their ships were crude but powerful, designed for one purpose: destruction. They had conquered dozens of worlds using fear and overwhelming force. They expected this attack to be like all the others, Admiral Cracktool, the leader of the Dakari fleet, stood in the command center of his flagship. He was a massive creature, even by Dakari standards, with scales that gleamed like black metal, and eyes that glowed red in the dark. His crew feared him almost as much as his enemies did. "Report," he growled at his subordinates. "The mining worlds are directly ahead," replied Captain Vexcar, his second in command. "Our sensors show standard Council defenses. A few patrol ships, some orbital platforms, nothing that can stop us." Admiral Cracktool laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "The Council grows weaker every year. Soon we will rule all their worlds. Begin the attack." The Dakari ships accelerated toward the mining worlds, their weapons charging for battle. They had done this many times before. The pattern was always the same: attack fast, destroy the defenses, take what they wanted, and leave before Council. Reinforcements could arrive, but this time was different. As the Dakari fleet approached the first mining world, space around them suddenly filled with light. Dozens of human ships appeared as if from nowhere, their stealth systems deactivating all at once. The Independence led the formation, its massive guns already pointed at the Dakari flagship. Captain Mitchell opened a communication channel that reached every ship in both fleets. His voice was calm and steady, but there was steel underneath it. "This is Captain Ryan Mitchell of the Terran Republic Navy, Dakari vessels. You are ordered to withdraw immediately from this sector." Admiral Cracktool stared at the display screen. In shock, the human ships were larger and more advanced than anything he had ever seen. Their formations were perfect, their movements coordinated with mechanical precision. These were not the primitive vessels his intelligence had described. "Human ship," he snarled into the communicator. "You are outnumbered 4-1. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick." Captain Mitchell's response was immediate and final. "You had your chance for peace. Now you face humanity's justice." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Dakari attacked with their usual brutal tactics, but the human ships moved like they were dancing. They avoided the enemy fire with impossible grace, while their own weapons struck with devastating accuracy. The first Dakari ship exploded in a ball of fire, then another, then 10 more. The human weapons did not just destroy the enemy ships. They completely vaporized them. Within minutes, half the Dakari fleet was gone. Admiral Cracktool screamed orders at his remaining ships, but it was too late. The humans had shown no mercy and taken no prisoners. One by one, the Dakari warships were systematically destroyed. The great invasion fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for so long was being wiped out by a force they had never encountered before. The last transmission from the Dakari flagship was a desperate plea for mercy. Captain Mitchell's reply was broadcast across the galaxy. "The Terran Republic protects the innocent and punishes the guilty. This is our promise to all who would threaten peace." In the council chamber, the 12 alien races watched the battle in stunned silence. The humans had not just defeated the Dakari, they had destroyed them completely. The species that had dismissed humanity as primitive warmongers now faced the terrible truth. Humanity was the new dominant force in the galaxy, and they had just announced their presence with overwhelming power. The great crystal hall of the council station had never seen chaos like this before. Aliens were shouting in dozens of different languages, while the translation machines struggled to keep up. Some council members were demanding immediate military action against humanity. Others were calling for evacuation of council space. A few were quietly discussing surrender terms. Council Speaker Thane Vexka tried to restore order, but his misty form flickered wildly with panic. The destruction of the Dakari fleet had been broadcast across the galaxy, and every species had seen what human weapons could do. In less than an hour, humanity had wiped out a force that had terrorized the galaxy for decades. "Silence!" Vexka finally shouted, his voice echoing through the hall. "We must think clearly about this situation." But clear thinking was hard to come by. Intelligence Director Zara Kethmol stood at the center of the circle, her insect wings buzzing so fast they were almost invisible. She held a datapad filled with reports that had been flooding in since the battle. The situation is worse than we thought, she announced. The humans have not just formed their own government, they have created something completely new. They call it the Terran Republic, and it spans 47 star systems. The crystalline Vortani leader's body flashed bright red with anger. 47 systems? That is impossible. No species has ever expanded so quickly. It is not just expansion, Zara continued. They have formed alliances with over 30 different species. The Tau have given them access to rare metals. The Nexari are sharing navigation data. Even the peaceful Korhen have joined their alliance. Species that never talk to each other are now working together under human leadership. General Kane Vostel activated the holographic display again. This time, the map showed the galaxy divided into 3 sections. Council space was marked in blue, covering about half the galaxy. Unknown or neutral space was gray, but now there was a third color, green, representing the Terran Republic. According to our latest intelligence, the general said, the Terran Republic controls more resources than the Council does. They have better technology, stronger military forces, and more unified leadership. We are no longer the dominant power in the galaxy. The plant-like groans rustled their leaves in distress. But how did they do this so quickly? 6 months ago? They were sitting in this very hall asking to join us. Dr. Fenvarka, the ancient ethereal scientist, floated forward. Her energy form pulsed with blue light as she spoke directly into their minds. They were never asking to join us. They were studying us. While we thought we were negotiating, they were learning our weaknesses and building their own empire. The energy beings called Flux dimmed their lights to almost nothing. We have been played for fools, their leader whispered. Everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong. Council Speaker Vexka tried to regain control of the meeting. We need to make a decision. Do we fight them? Or do we try to negotiate? Fight them with what? General Vostol asked bitterly. Our combined fleets have maybe 800 ships. Intelligence reports suggest the Terran Republic has over 2,000 vessels, all more advanced than anything we have. Intelligence Director Zara buzzed her wings again. There is something else. We have intercepted communications between human colonies and their government. They are completely self-sufficient. They do not need our trade routes, our resources, or our technology. They have everything they need to survive and grow. The hall fell silent as the full meaning of her words sank in. The Council had always maintained power by controlling trade and resources. Species joined them because they needed what the Council could provide, but humanity needed nothing from them. We could try economic sanctions, suggested the leader of the insect-like hegemony, against whom, Dr. Varkua asked. They trade with species we have never even contacted. They have built their own economy completely separate from ours. The crystalline Vortani leader stood up, his rocky body glowing with desperate energy. Then we must attack now, before they get stronger. We cannot allow them to continue expanding. General. Vostol shook his head sadly. Our military analysts have run every possible scenario. Even if we attacked with our entire fleet, we would lose. The battle with the Dakari proved that human weapons are generations ahead of ours. We would be destroyed. Council Speaker Vexka slumped in his chair, his misty form becoming almost transparent. So what do? We cannot fight them. We cannot control them. We cannot even ignore them. We could try to negotiate, suggested the leader of the peaceful groans. Offer them full membership in the Council, equal voting rights. No restrictions? Zara buzzed her wings sadly. We already sent that message 3 days ago. The response came from President Karen Hayes of the Terran Republic. She activated a recording device and a human voice filled the hall. The voice was calm and professional, but underneath it was steel. The Council had its opportunity to treat humanity as equals. That time has passed. Humanity charts its own course among the stars. We wish the Council well in their future endeavors. The message ended, and the hall erupted in chaos again. Some aliens called for immediate evacuation. Others demanded that the humans be found and destroyed, even if it meant the end of the council. A few suggested that maybe it was time to dissolve the council entirely and join the Terran Republic. "Order!" Vivekska shouted, but his voice was weak and defeated. "We must maintain order." But order was the last thing on anyone's mind. For thousands of years, the council had been the ultimate authority in the galaxy. They had decided which species could join the galactic community and which would be left behind. They had controlled trade, technology, and territory. They had been the masters of known space. Now they faced a species that had rejected their authority and proven they did not need it. Humanity had not just left the council. They had replaced it with something better. The Terran Republic was growing stronger every day, while the council grew weaker. Dr. Varka spoke into the chaos, her mental voice reaching every being in the hall. "We must face the truth. The age of the council is ending. Humanity has shown the galaxy that there is another way. A way without our permission, without our control, without our approval." Outside the Great Crystal Hall, the council station continued its normal operations. But everyone knew that nothing would ever be normal again. Ships from member species were already requesting permission to leave and explore this new Terran Republic. Some were asking if they could establish trade, relationships with humanity. The council had wanted to make humanity submit to their will. Instead, they had created their own replacement. Humanity had not just left the council. They had made it irrelevant. As the chaos continued in the hall, a single message appeared on every screen in the station. It was from the Terran Republic. Addressed to all species in the galaxy, the Terran Republic welcomes all peaceful species to join us in building a better future among the stars. Together we can create a galaxy where every species is respected and every world is free. The message was simple, but its meaning was clear. Humanity was offering what the Council never had: equality, respect, and freedom. The new masters of the galaxy had announced themselves, and they were nothing like the old ones. The Council's age of dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun.